My rich aunt left me her entire empire, but her letter had one shocking condition.
It was an ordinary evening. I had just finished my shift at the cafe, the kind of night where the air smells faintly of coffee and rain, and everything feels quiet in the best way. I slipped into my usual hoodie, adjusted my bag, and started the walk home I'd taken countless times before. My phone buzzed once, but I ignored it. I liked the silence on that street. I liked knowing exactly what was ahead. I liked the comfort of routine, but that night, it was about to change. When I opened my mailbox, there it was, an envelope, cream-colored, thick, and sealed with wax. No return address. My name was written neatly across the front in a handwriting I didn't recognize at first. I stared at it for a long time, my heart already beating faster for reasons I couldn't explain. I almost walked away, but something pulled me closer, some strange curiosity I couldn't resist. Inside was a letter, and I swear, I could feel my breath stop when I read the first line. It said my name, not in formal language, but as if it was written just for me. And then the words I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, that my rich aunt, someone I barely knew, had left me everything she owned, her fortune, her house, her empire. But there was a condition that the letter didn't explain. It just said, prove yourself worthy. That line haunted me. I didn't even know what it meant. Why me? Why now? My aunt wasn't close to me. I couldn't remember the last time I had even seen her. And yet, somehow, her life, and now her death, was pulling me into something I didn't understand. I stood there in my hallway, holding that letter like it was a living thing, my chest tightening with fear and confusion. I didn't know if I was reading a gift or a warning. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I left work early and went to the address she left behind. Her home was enormous, an old mansion hidden behind towering gates that seemed to guard more than just a house. The garden was wild, the paint peeling, and the air smelled of damp wood and secrets. I hesitated at the gate. My hands trembled as I pushed it open. Inside, every step felt heavy. The silence was thick. Dust swirled in the air, catching the light in strange ways. Drawers were full of letters, photographs, journals, things that spoke of a life I never knew she lived. Her life wasn't quiet. It was full of battles, of mysteries she never told anyone. Then, in a hidden drawer, I found a file. My name was written on it in the same careful script as the letter. It was full of documents, lawsuits, property disputes, handwritten notes, but among those papers were photographs of protests, of people holding signs about injustice, of meetings in dark rooms. It wasn't just about wealth. Her empire was built on something far more complicated, and somehow, I was part of it. As I stood there, trying to make sense of it all, a voice in my head told me to leave, but another voice, stronger, said I couldn't ignore this. Something about her condition was pulling me deeper. That night, I sat with the letter and her file. My phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers. A few times, I thought I heard footsteps outside my window. I told myself it was nerves, but then, my doorbell rang. No one was there when I opened it, just more silence. Somewhere deep down, I knew my life had changed. I wasn't walking home that night the same person who had left work hours ago. There was a pull, something dangerous. And the more I thought about her condition, the more I realized I couldn't walk away. I had to know. What I didn't know was how far I was about to be dragged into a story I could never escape. Because that letter, it was only the beginning. That night, I couldn't sleep. The letter burned in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her handwriting, felt the weight of those words, prove yourself worthy. My room felt smaller, tighter. It wasn't just curiosity now. It was something else, something deeper. Fear mixed with the strange pull of knowing that whatever lay ahead could change everything by morning. I had made my decision. I wasn't turning back. I grabbed the file she left for me and slipped it into my bag. I told myself it was just a visit, to learn, to understand, but deep down I knew this was the start of something far bigger. I took a cab to the address scribbled in the letter. It was an office building in the middle of the city. On the outside, nothing seemed unusual, but when I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the walls were holding secrets. A woman at the reception looked up and froze. Her eyes widened, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're Alec Rose?" she asked quietly. I nodded. She gestured for me to follow. We walked down a long hallway lined with photographs I didn't recognize, protests, Courtroom scenes, faces of people who looked tired but determined. Each one seemed to whisper the same thing. She fought for us. We entered a small office. There, on a polished wooden desk, sat another letter. This one was typed but signed with the same handwriting as the first. My hands felt cold as I unfolded it. The words hit me like a storm. If you want to claim what's mine, you must first understand the truth. What I built was never just a fortune. It was a voice for those who had none. You must find the reason I fought. You must face what I faced. The words blurred as tears formed in my eyes. I swallowed hard. This wasn't about inheritance anymore. This was a call. And the deeper I read, the more I felt pulled into something I couldn't ignore. That afternoon, I began to dig. I found old newspaper articles hidden in the file, stories about protests she had organized, cases she had fought against corrupt corporations, countless names of people who had been silenced. Her life was not a normal life. She had risked everything for something greater. And now, somehow, that battle was mine. Days passed. I followed every lead in her documents, meeting strangers who spoke of her with reverence, fear, and anger. Some warned me to stop. Others urged me to continue. Every clue led to another mystery. Every door I opened seemed to hide another question. And then, late one night, I got a call. No number, no voice, just a click, and then silence. My phone screen went black. My breath caught. I felt eyes on me, even though I was alone in my room. A week later, as I walked home, the same uneasy feeling returned. The streetlights flickered. A car slowed beside me, its windows tinted so I couldn't see inside. I hurried my pace. My heart raced. I was no longer just a curious girl. I was a target. I knew then this wasn't just about money. This was about something much darker. Something my aunt had tried to protect. Something that had now become my fight. I wasn't sure I was ready for it, but the moment I stepped into her world, the choice vanished. I was in it now, and whatever happened next, I would have to face it. From that night on, nothing felt safe anymore. Every sound made my chest tighten. Every shadow seemed heavier. I started noticing people watching me, in cafes, on the street, even when I walked past my own building. I began keeping my phone in my bag, turning off location services, avoiding familiar routes, but I couldn't stop, because whatever my aunt left me, it was pulling me deeper. I went back to her mansion. The first time, I had just wanted answers. Now I went with purpose. The gates creaked when I pushed them open, as if warning me not to enter. Inside, the air was colder, the dust thicker, but the file called to me. I opened it again and saw another envelope tucked deep inside. It was addressed to me. No date, no explanation, only a single line written inside. They are watching. You must be ready. That sentence was enough to send a chill down my spine. My hand shook as I clutched the envelope. Who was they? And what exactly did I have to be ready for? Over the next days, I started piecing it together. The file contained photographs, meetings with people I didn't know, protests that ended in violence, court cases that seemed to vanish without explanation. There were letters from lawyers, and from people thanking her for helping them. But there were also photographs of her looking worried, of her walking away from something dangerous. And then there was the last piece, a short, handwritten note, folded neatly between the pages. If I disappear, Alec, you must continue. My breath caught. Disappear. I felt my world tilt. This wasn't an inheritance anymore. It was a mission, and somehow, she had chosen me to finish it. That night, I dreamt of her. Not the aunt I barely knew, but someone alive and desperate. She was standing in the shadows, pointing toward a door I could never find. Her voice was faint. You have to see it. You have to finish it. I woke with my heart pounding, drenched in sweat. The next day, I began investigating more aggressively. I traced phone numbers in the documents, talked to witnesses, followed leads into parts of the city I had never seen before. Each step felt heavier. Each door I knocked on seemed to hold more danger, and with each answer I uncovered, I felt the walls closing in. One afternoon, I was followed. I didn't notice it at first, just a figure behind me walking at the same pace, disappearing when I turned my head. But then it happened again, and again. I tried to shake it off, but the feeling never left. Then, one night, I received another call. This time, a voice, low, distorted, urgent. Stop. Don't go any further. This isn't for you. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to ignore it, but something inside me told me I couldn't. This was no longer just her fight. It was mine. That night, I opened the file again and found something I hadn't noticed before. A map, a location marked in red, no address, just a dot, and beside it, another line in her handwriting. The truth waits here. I stared at it for a long time, my breath shallow. Every instinct screamed to walk away, but the pull was stronger than fear. Because I knew I had to go there, even if it meant walking straight into danger. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept returning to the map. The red dot burned in my thoughts like a warning. By morning, I had made my choice. I wasn't turning back. I packed only what I could carry in my bag: my phone, a flashlight, a bottle of water, the file, and her letters. I left without telling anyone. The location was outside the city, somewhere I'd never been. The road twisted through abandoned neighborhoods, overgrown fields, and cracked pavement. My phone signal dropped halfway, and a strange silence settled over the air. It was heavy, almost suffocating. My heartbeat was loud in my ears as I followed the directions scribbled in her handwriting. When I arrived, there was nothing but an old warehouse. Its walls were cracked, windows shattered, doors hanging loose on rusted hinges. It looked forgotten, dangerous, but something told me this was exactly where I needed to be. I stepped inside. The air was cold and damp. My footsteps echoed in the empty space. My flashlight flickered. I could feel my chest tightening. Somewhere deeper in the building, a faint sound, a whisper, a movement, made me freeze. The map in my hand trembled as I stepped forward. Then I saw it, a staircase descending into darkness. My breath caught. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything I had uncovered. I descended. The air grew colder. The sound grew louder. Muffled voices, hurried footsteps, then silence. At the bottom of the stairs, I entered a room filled with photographs and papers plastered across the walls. They told her story. My aunt's story. The protests she had led, the injustices she had fought against, the threats she had endured, and pictures of people she had helped. Some smiling, some looking desperate, others gone entirely. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A photograph of her, but not the way I knew her. She was younger, worn, her eyes hard and haunted. Beneath it was a date, not long ago, and a location, the very place I was standing. Suddenly, the air shifted. A voice behind me, low and cold. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. The figure stepped forward. A man in a hood, his face hidden in shadow. My heart thundered in my chest. My hands gripped the file tightly. "Who are you?" I demanded, voice trembling. "That place isn't yours to uncover," he said. "Your aunt was in too deep, and now, so are you." The warehouse seemed to close in around me. My breath came fast. Every step forward felt heavier. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then, he stepped closer, and I saw it, a badge, corruption, secrets, something my aunt had warned me about but never explained. I realized in that moment, this was no longer just about inheritance. This was her last fight, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Would I walk away, or would I finally uncover the truth she died to protect? I stepped forward, my legs shaking, the file clutched to my chest like a lifeline. The man's hood shadowed his face, but I felt his eyes on me. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but I couldn't. Not after everything, not after her. "I need to know," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I need to know what she wanted me to find." He stayed silent for a long moment. Then, finally, he pulled back his hood. His face was tired, older, marked with lines of worry. "Some truths," he said quietly, "come with a price. Your aunt paid it." I swallowed hard, the weight of those words pressing down on me. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the wall, and there it was, the truth. Photographs, letters, videos, evidence of something I could hardly believe. My aunt had been fighting an injustice that ran deeper than I imagined. Corruption, cover-ups, violence hidden behind the name of justice. Her inheritance wasn't just money, it was a legacy of courage. I felt tears burn my eyes, not just for her, but for everyone she had fought for. And for me, she had trusted me with her story, her truth. The man spoke again. "They will try to silence you, but you can't stop now." I nodded, understanding the risk, but I also understood something deeper. The reason I had been chosen, it wasn't about the inheritance, it was about carrying her fight forward. That night, I walked away from the warehouse forever changed. The fear I felt before had turned into something stronger, resolve. I knew I couldn't unsee what I had found. I couldn't forget what my aunt had sacrificed. And I couldn't ignore the truth that injustice doesn't end unless someone stands up against it. When I tell you this story now, It's not just about me. It's about her, about every person whose voice was silenced, about the millions still waiting for justice. I keep asking myself, how many more will have to disappear before the world finally listens? And the answer, I think we already know. So I'm here, telling you her story, my story. Because if we stay silent, the truth dies with us. What would you do if this was your truth?
My rich aunt left me her entire empire, but her letter had one shocking condition.
It was an ordinary evening. I had just finished my shift at the cafe, the kind of night where the air smells faintly of coffee and rain, and everything feels quiet in the best way. I slipped into my usual hoodie, adjusted my bag, and started the walk home I'd taken countless times before. My phone buzzed once, but I ignored it. I liked the silence on that street. I liked knowing exactly what was ahead. I liked the comfort of routine, but that night, it was about to change. When I opened my mailbox, there it was, an envelope, cream-colored, thick, and sealed with wax. No return address. My name was written neatly across the front in a handwriting I didn't recognize at first. I stared at it for a long time, my heart already beating faster for reasons I couldn't explain. I almost walked away, but something pulled me closer, some strange curiosity I couldn't resist. Inside was a letter, and I swear I could feel my breath stop when I read the first line. It said my name, not in formal language, but as if it was written just for me. And then the words I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, that my rich aunt, someone I barely knew, had left me everything she owned, her fortune, her house, her empire. But there was a condition that the letter didn't explain. It just said, "Prove yourself worthy." That line haunted me. I didn't even know what it meant. Why me? Why now? My aunt wasn't close to me. I couldn't remember the last time I had even seen her. And yet, somehow, her life, and now her death, was pulling me into something I didn't understand. I stood there in my hallway, holding that letter like it was a living thing, my chest tightening with fear and confusion. I didn't know if I was reading a gift or a warning. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I left work early and went to the address she left behind. Her home was enormous, an old mansion hidden behind towering gates that seemed to guard more than just a house. The garden was wild, the paint peeling, and the air smelled of damp wood and secrets. I hesitated at the gate. My hands trembled as I pushed it open. Inside, every step felt heavy. The silence was thick. Dust swirled in the air, catching the light in strange ways. Drawers were full of letters, photographs, journals, things that spoke of a life I never knew she lived. Her life wasn't quiet. It was full of battles, of mysteries she never told anyone. Then, in a hidden drawer, I found a file. My name was written on it in the same careful script as the letter. It was full of documents, lawsuits, property disputes, handwritten notes. But among those papers were photographs of protests, of people holding signs about injustice, of meetings in dark rooms. It wasn't just about wealth. Her empire was built on something far more complicated. And somehow, I was part of it. As I stood there, trying to make sense of it all, a voice in my head told me to leave. But another voice, stronger, said I couldn't. I couldn't ignore this. Something about her condition was pulling me deeper. That night, I sat with the letter and her file. My phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers. A few times, I thought I heard footsteps outside my window. I told myself it was nerves, but then my doorbell rang. No one was there when I opened it, just more silence. Somewhere deep down, I knew my life had changed. I wasn't walking home that night the same person who had left work hours ago. There was a pull, something dangerous. And the more I thought about her condition, the more I realized I couldn't walk away. I had to know. What I didn't know was how far I was about to be dragged into a story I could never escape. Because that letter, it was only the beginning. That night, I couldn't sleep. The letter burned in my mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her handwriting, felt the weight of those words. Prove yourself worthy. My room felt smaller, tighter. It wasn't just curiosity now. It was something else, something deeper. Fear mixed with the strange pull of knowing that whatever lay ahead could change everything. By morning, I had made my decision. I wasn't turning back. I grabbed the file she left for me and slipped it into my bag. I told myself it was just a visit, to learn, to understand. But deep down I knew this was the start of something far bigger. I took a cab to the address scribbled in the letter. It was an office building in the middle of the city. On the outside, nothing seemed unusual. But when I stepped inside, the air felt heavy, like the walls were holding secrets. A woman at the reception looked up and froze. Her eyes widened, her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're Alec Rose?" she asked quietly. I nodded. She gestured for me to follow. We walked down a long hallway lined with photographs I didn't recognize, protests, courtroom scenes, faces of people who looked tired but determined. Each one seemed to whisper the same thing. She fought for us. We entered a small office. There, on a polished wooden desk, sat another letter. This one was typed but signed with the same handwriting as the first. My hands felt cold as I unfolded it. The words hit me like a storm. "If you want to claim what's mine, you must first understand the truth. What I built was never just a fortune. It was a voice for those who had none. You must find the reason I fought. You must face what I faced." The words blurred as tears formed in my eyes. I swallowed hard. This wasn't about inheritance anymore. This was a call. And the deeper I read, the more I felt pulled into something I couldn't ignore. That afternoon, I began to dig. I found old newspaper articles hidden in the file, stories about protests she had organized, cases she had fought against corrupt corporations, countless names of people who had been silenced. Her life was not a normal life. She had risked everything for something greater. And now, somehow, that battle was mine. Days passed. I followed every lead in her documents, meeting strangers who spoke of her with reverence, fear, and anger. Some warned me to stop. Others urged me to continue. Every clue led to another mystery. Every door I opened seemed to hide another question. And then, late one night, I got a call. No number, no voice, just a click, and then silence. My phone screen went black. My breath caught. I felt eyes on me, even though I was alone in my room. A week later, as I walked home, the same uneasy feeling returned. The streetlights flickered. A car slowed beside me, its windows tinted so I couldn't see inside. I hurried my pace. My heart raced. I was no longer just a curious girl. I was a target. I knew then this wasn't just about money. This was about something much darker, something my aunt had tried to protect, something that had now become my fight. I wasn't sure I was ready for it, but the moment I stepped into her world, the choice vanished. I was in it now, and whatever happened next, I would have to face it. From that night on, nothing felt safe anymore. Every sound made my chest tighten. Every shadow seemed heavier. I started noticing people watching me, in cafes, on the street, even when I walked past my own building. I began keeping my phone in my bag, turning off location services, avoiding familiar routes, but I couldn't stop, because whatever my aunt left me, it was pulling me deeper. I went back to her mansion. The first time, I had just wanted answers. Now I went with purpose. The gates creaked when I pushed them open, as if warning me not to enter. Inside, the air was colder, the dust thicker, but the file called to me. I opened it again and saw another envelope tucked deep inside. It was addressed to me. No date, no explanation, only a single line written inside. "They are watching. You must be ready." That sentence was enough to send a chill down my spine. My hand shook as I clutched the envelope. Who was they? And what exactly did I have to be ready for? Over the next days, I started piecing it together. The file contained photographs, meetings with people I didn't know, protests that ended in violence, court cases that seemed to vanish without explanation. There were letters from lawyers and from people thanking her for helping them, but there were also photographs of her looking worried, of her walking away from something dangerous. And then there was the last piece, a short, handwritten note folded neatly between the pages. "If I disappear, Alec, you must continue." My breath caught. Disappear. I felt my world tilt. This wasn't an inheritance anymore. It was a mission, and somehow she had chosen me to finish it. That night, I dreamt of her. Not the aunt I barely knew, but someone alive and desperate. She was standing in the shadows, pointing toward a door I could never find. Her voice was faint. "You have to see it. You have to finish it." I woke with my heart pounding, drenched in sweat. The next day, I began investigating more aggressively. I traced phone numbers in the documents, talked to witnesses, followed leads into parts of the city I had never seen before. Each step felt heavier. Each door I knocked on seemed to hold more danger, and with each answer I uncovered, I felt the walls closing in. One afternoon, I was followed. I didn't notice it at first, just a figure behind me walking at the same pace, disappearing when I turned my head. But then it happened again, and again. I tried to shake it off, but the feeling never left. Then, one night, I received another call. This time, a voice, low, distorted, urgent. Stop. Don't go any further. This isn't for you. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to ignore it, but something inside me told me I couldn't. This was no longer just her fight. It was mine. That night, I opened the file again and found something I hadn't noticed before. A map, a location marked in red, no address, just a dot, and beside it, another line in her handwriting. The truth waits here. I stared at it for a long time, my breath shallow. Every instinct screamed to walk away, but the pull was stronger than fear. Because I knew I had to go there, even if it meant walking straight into danger. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept returning to the map. The red dot burned in my thoughts like a warning. By morning, I had made my choice. I wasn't turning back. I packed only what I could carry in my bag: my phone, a flashlight, a bottle of water, the file, and her letters. I left without telling anyone. The location was outside the city, somewhere I'd never been. The road twisted through abandoned neighborhoods, overgrown fields, and cracked pavement. My phone signal dropped halfway, and a strange silence settled over the air. It was heavy, almost suffocating. My heartbeat was loud in my ears as I followed the directions scribbled in her handwriting. When I arrived, there was nothing but an old warehouse. Its walls were cracked, windows shattered, doors hanging loose on rusted hinges. It looked forgotten, dangerous, but something told me this was exactly where I needed to be. I stepped inside. The air was cold and damp. My footsteps echoed in the empty space. My flashlight flickered. I could feel my chest tightening. Somewhere deeper in the building, a faint sound, a whisper, a movement made me freeze. The map in my hand trembled as I stepped forward. Then I saw it, a staircase descending into darkness. My breath caught. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything I had uncovered. I descended. The air grew colder. The sound grew louder. Muffled voices, hurried footsteps, then silence. At the bottom of the stairs, I entered a room filled with photographs and papers plastered across the walls. They told her story. My aunt's story. The protests she had led, the injustices she had fought against, the threats she had endured, and pictures of people she had helped. Some smiling, some looking desperate, others gone entirely. Then I saw something that made my stomach drop. A photograph of her, but not the way I knew her. She was younger, worn, her eyes hard and haunted. Beneath it was a date, not long ago, and a location, the very place I was standing. Suddenly, the air shifted. A voice behind me, low and cold. "You shouldn't be here." I spun around. The figure stepped forward. A man in a hood, his face hidden in shadow. My heart thundered in my chest. My hands gripped the file tightly. "Who are you?" I demanded, voice trembling. "That place isn't yours to uncover," he said. "Your aunt was in too deep, and now, so are you." The warehouse seemed to close in around me. My breath came fast. Every step forward felt heavier. I could hear my own heartbeat. Then he stepped closer, and I saw it, a badge: corruption, secrets, something my aunt had warned me about but never explained. I realized in that moment, this was no longer just about inheritance. This was her last fight, and I was standing right in the middle of it. Would I walk away, or would I finally uncover the truth she died to protect? I stepped forward, my legs shaking, the file clutched to my chest like a lifeline. The man's hood shadowed his face, but I felt his eyes on me. Every instinct screamed to turn around, but I couldn't. Not after everything. Not after her. "I need to know," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I need to know what she wanted me to find." He stayed silent for a long moment. Then, finally, he pulled back his hood. His face was tired, older, marked with lines of worry. "Some truths," he said quietly, "come with a price. Your aunt paid it." I swallowed hard, the weight of those words pressing down on me. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the wall, and there it was, the truth. Photographs, letters, videos, evidence of something I could hardly believe. My aunt had been fighting an injustice that ran deeper than I imagined: corruption, cover-ups, violence hidden behind the name of justice. Her inheritance wasn't just money, it was a legacy of courage. I felt tears burn my eyes. not just for her, but for everyone she had fought for. And for me, she had trusted me with her story, her truth. The man spoke again. They will try to silence you, but you can't stop now. I nodded, understanding the risk, but I also understood something deeper. The reason I had been chosen, it wasn't about the inheritance, it was about carrying her fight forward. That night, I walked away from the warehouse forever changed. The fear I felt before had turned into something stronger, resolve. I knew I couldn't unsee what I had found. I couldn't forget what my aunt had sacrificed. And I couldn't ignore the truth that injustice doesn't end unless someone stands up against it. When I tell you this story now, it's not just about me. It's about her, about every person whose voice was silenced, about the millions still waiting for justice. I keep asking myself, how many more will have to disappear before the world finally listens? And the answer, I think we already know. So I'm here, telling you her story, my story. Because if we stay silent, the truth dies with us. What would you do if this was your truth?